Thank you for tuning in to Teacher Mommy, Mommy Teacher. Today we will be discussing equivalent fractions. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Equivalent fractions name the same amount. If you look at the chart, you can see that 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, 9/9, 10/10, 11/11, and 12/12 all equal 1. All right, let's look at 2/3. We're going to find the equivalent fraction by multiplying. We must multiply the numerator and denominator by the same non-zero number. Now you're probably saying, what is a non-zero number? A non-zero number is 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, 5/6, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, 9/9, 10/10, 11/11, and 12/12. Why? Because they all equal 1. If you look down at the fraction bar, we have a representation of 2/3. There are 3 total sections, and 2 of the sections are shaded in. That is why it is called 2/3. All right, now we're going to multiply our 2/3 by our non-zero number, which is 2 halves. So we have 2/3 times 2 halves equals 4/6. Now for this problem, all you have to do is multiply the two numerators, 2 times 2, which equals 4, and then multiply the denominators, which is 3 times 2 equals 6. So now we look at it again, we have 2/3 times 2 halves equal 4/6. So 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. For those who need a visual, we're going to multiply our 2/3 by our non-zero number, which is 2 halves. If you look down at the first arrow, the fraction bar represents 2/3. There are 3 total parts and there's 2 shaded in. Now we look at the second arrow, which is right in the middle. It shows that we have split the thirds in half. Why? Because our non-zero number is 2 halves. So we need to split the thirds in halves. Now there are 6 sections and 4 are shaded in. And if we look at our last arrow, it represents 4/6. There are 6 sections and 4 are shaded in. So let's go back to the second arrow. Our second arrow is equivalent to our third arrow. They both represent 4/6. All right, let's look at 2/3 again. This time we're going to multiply using the non-zero number 3/3. On the last problem, we used the non-zero number of 2 halves. This time we're doing 3/3. Let's look at the equation. We have 2/3 times 3/3, our non-zero number, equals 6/9. Again, to multiply, all you do is multiply the two numerators, 3 times 2, which equals 6, and then multiply the two denominators, 3 times 3, which equals 9. So 2/3 times 3/3 equals 6/9, which means that 2/3 is equivalent to 6/9. Now, for those who need a visual, we're going to multiply our 2/3 by our non-zero number, which is 3/3. So we look at our equation, we have 2/3 times 3/3 equals 6/9. Let's look at the first arrow. Our first arrow represents 2/3. The fraction bar has 3 sections and 2 are shaded in. So that is equivalent to 2/3. Our second arrow, which is in the middle, shows us that we have to split the thirds into thirds. Why are we splitting the thirds into thirds? Because we multiplied by our non-zero number, which was 3/3. So now there are 9 sections total, and there are 6 shaded. Let's look at our third arrow, the last arrow. It represents 6/9. There are 9 sections total, and there are 6 shaded. Let's go back to our second arrow. Our second arrow and our third arrow are equivalent. If I was to put them over top of each other, the fraction bars are the same length. They are equivalent. So they both show 6/9. If you look at the chart below, you will see that 2/3, 4/6, 6/9, and 8/12 are equivalent. 2/3 is highlighted by the black box. 4/6 is highlighted by the red box. 6/9 is highlighted by the white box. And 8/12 is highlighted by the blue box. If you look at them carefully, you will see that they are all the same size. So 2/3, 4/6, 6/9, and 8/12 are equivalent. Now, let's try 3/4. We're going to multiply using the non-zero number 2/2. We have our equation, 3/4 times 2/2 equals 6/8. Remember, 2/2 is the non-zero number. In order to solve this equation, multiply the numerators, 3 times 2, which equals 6, and then multiply the denominators, 4 times 2, which equals 8. So 3/4 times 2/2 equals 6/8. 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. For those who need a visual, we're going to multiply our 3/4 by our non-zero number, which is 2/2. Let's look at the equation. We have 3/4 times 2/2, our non-zero number, which equals 6/8. Let's look at the first arrow. Our first arrow represents 3/4. There are 4 sections altogether, and 3 are shaded in. Now, our second arrow, which is in the middle, shows us that we have to split the fourths in halves. Why are we splitting the fourths in halves? Because our non-zero number is 2/2. So now there are 8 sections total, and there are 6 shaded in. Our third arrow represents 6/8. There are 8 total sections, and 6 are shaded in. Now let's go back to our second arrow. Our second arrow and our third arrow are equivalent. They both represent 6/8. Let's do 3/4 again. We're going to multiply using the non-zero number 3/3. Let's look at the equation. 3/4 times 3/3 equal 9/12. Remember, our non-zero number is 3/3. To solve this equation, multiply the numerators, 3 times 3, which equals 9. Then multiply the denominators, 4 times 3, which equals 12. So 3/4 times 3/3 equal 9/12. 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. For those who need a visual, we're going to multiply our 3/4 by our non-zero number, which is 3/3. Let's look at the equation. 3/4 times 3/3, our non-zero number, equals 9/12. Let's look at our first arrow. Our first arrow represents 3/4. There are 4 sections total, and there are 3 shaded in. Our second arrow, which is in the middle, shows us that we have to split the fourths into thirds. Why are we splitting the fourths into thirds? Because our non-zero number is 3/3. Now there are 12 sections with 9 shaded in. Our third arrow represents 9/12. There are 12 sections with 9 shaded in. Let's go back to our second arrow. Our second arrow and our third arrow are equivalent. They both represent 9/12. If you look at the chart below, you will see that 3/4, 6/8, and 9/12 are all equivalent. 3/4 is highlighted by the black box, 6/8 is highlighted by the red box, and 9/12 is highlighted by the white box. If you look carefully, you will see that all of the boxes are the same size. So that lets you know that 3/4, 6/8, and 9/12 are equivalent. Thank you for tuning in to Teacher Mommy, Mommy Teacher. We hope you enjoyed this segment. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And see you next time.